Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Hector and Mike Experience. Common sense in an uncommon world. Mike, we've got so much going on today. We've got everything from Tiara Mack, doing upside down handstands in order to run for Secretary of State, one of your state legislators in Rhode Island. We've got Joe Biden, who's sending our oil in the petroleum reserve out to Asia and Europe. But I mean, seriously, let's start off with probably one of the biggest news that's happened this week, which is on Independence Day, California Governor Gavin Newsom released an ad in Florida, beating up on Trump, beating up on the governor there in Florida, saying, "Come to California because we have independence, we have freedom here." And this, just to add it all together, he then decides to go and vacation in Montana, a state that the state of California has prevented any state travel to.
Well, Montana is a beautiful state. People have freedom in Montana. Gavin Newsom's, I'd love to see what his definition of freedom is. It's freedom to pay $6.20 for a gallon of gas when everybody else is paying at least $1 cheaper. Freedom to live in overpasses and on city streets and take a dump on the street and, have all kinds of crime and stuff going on and spending billions of dollars and not fixing the problem of the homelessness in California. Freedom for companies to move out of California in droves to other states because just by moving they can save money. Certainly they have reproductive freedom here in California like no place else. I mean, if you're thinking about getting pregnant, you can probably go get an abortion in California, just thinking about it. Freedom to spend your money take your money as much as they need, $98 billion in a surplus, which is like, in some places 5 times the actual budget of most states. So there's a lot of freedom here in California to enjoy, I guess, but it's not enough freedom that he can't vacation here, so he decides to go to Montana, where I know his wife is from, and they have a ranch, which a lot of Californians do, but it's a little bit hypocritical to be going to Montana after you tell everybody else that works for the state you can't go to Montana, part of the do as I say, not as I do group. But all of this is just, show for 2024. I mean, he's going past 2022. He's setting himself up a number of different ways to show the Democrat base around the country that they shouldn't be afraid of Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump or anybody else that runs, and has made a very clear statement that if Joe Biden decides not to run, that it's not going to be an anointing of Kamala. And so that's, considering it's the middle of summer in 2022, presidential politics is in full swing. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah, and right before he left, he signed a historic budget. And what I mean by historic budget is just on the size of the budget itself, over $300 billion. And as you noted, there was a $98 billion surplus. That's an additional money that we need, more so than, $97 billion more than we need to actually run the government. And so, it was kind of a festival for everyone. You get money here, you get money here, you get money here.
It's an Oprah show.
Yeah, the California the high-speed rail got about $4.5 billion in it, and included in that budget was to plant trees.
Okay.
So, California,
so the train can run it over.
Yeah. So they'll be planting trees.
Trees to nowhere.
And the thing is that with the budget itself, people are going to be looking through it and see what other things are included on there as they find more and more items. But
and the biggest thing about the budget, as I see it, is it didn't fix anything. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we have structural issues that are endemic to California. Weather, fires. We have lack of water. things that you could spend some of that $97 billion on today and have a result within the next year or two, and have results even better 5 or 10 years down the road. And we've got the money today to do it, so why don't we do it? As opposed to, I think one of the things they decided to do was give people, free rides on Metro Link and Metro Bus and the subway from now until the end of the year. Well, that's nice, but it's pretty cheap anyway to take all of those modes of transportation. And some people don't have the ability or the luxury to be able to do that because they are working 2 or 3 jobs. So it would have been nice to say, okay, we're going to, give you a break at the gas pump. What they ended up doing there was not just giving, money back to people that actually buy gas, but giving money to everybody. And that's what California's become. It's a big giveaway state. And, what's sad about this is that the people of California have such a low threshold of getting bought off by the government, and giving up their freedom and giving up their money, that it's kind of sad. It really is. It's kind of sad and pathetic.
Well, and everything we brought up, I mean, it's a big contrast to the advertisement that he gave out in Florida. I mean, his ad that he put out in Florida talks about a great California where, really no problems here, where you can come and enjoy your freedoms. Well, there's a lot of issues. Look, it is a wonderful state. We've got great people here, but we also have a lot of challenges, and a lot of it goes into this lack of leadership. We've got a drought situation. I think the biggest question is, okay, what happens to the next drought? We've got reservoirs that are ready to be built. It costs about $2.2 billion to get them built. In some, it's like $4 billion. Well, we got a $97 billion budget surplus. Why not just write the check and get it done?
But by the way, just to enhance that point, not only does that money, you spend it now, not only does that money help bring more ability to keep more water, so you're not separating it out, 15 different ways, but you actually have more water to use however you want to use it. But all of those things you just mentioned create construction jobs, labor jobs, all engineering jobs, survey jobs, all of those kinds of things, and all of that results in more taxes being paid, more fees and things like that. That's what a free market economy is supposed to do, as opposed to, just taking your money, which is what we have now. You would actually get and see some direct benefit to you and your household and your community if they addressed it that way. But that's not what they do. It's, hey, free money for everybody, and people are all happy about it. And then the free money is gone because, you just got $40 from the state of California, and you just had to spend $40 or $80 more at the gas station, and, so it's gone. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have any lasting impact. What you just described right there helps start to solve a problem that we have today before the next drought hits, and it helps put people to work, and it puts more tax money into the economy. That sounds like a win-win-win.
Well, and in this budget, a lot of what he did is he provided money for a lot of environmental groups, a lot of community-based organizations, unions, but a lot of that is just I believe, is just to solidify when he does decide to run for president. Mm-hmm. Because at the same time, the other thing that he put money into was making sure that we invested in more fossil fuel energy so that the lights don't turn off here in California, as they may during the summer or the next summer or the summer after that. And so even though he has gone out with the environmentalists to try to ban cars, try to ban the internal combustion engine, and so we're not using any more gasoline, he's reducing the number of permits allowed for oil exploration here in California. He then provided a great sums of money to make sure we keep the nuclear power plant going, and to make sure that we use fossil fuels to keep the lights going on. Because, he probably remembers with Gray Davis and the recall that happened with him, and the last thing he needs to do while he's looking to run for president is have a situation where the lights are turned off here in California.
The lights, well, the lights have been off for a while, some would say, in Sacramento. Um, the light bulbs haven't been going off in a long time. But you just said something right there. The lights went out in California back with Gray Davis in the late 90s, I think it was. And our energy grid is no stronger or no better than it was then. And so as a result, you have days where there's a strain on the grid and they use up all the power and the lights go out. Then you have other days where there isn't so much demand on the grid, but the grid isn't able to harness all of the electrical power that it acquires through all kinds of things, including solar. And so it has a surplus that the grid can't hold. And so what does California do when that happens? It goes to Arizona, it goes to Nevada, maybe it goes to Montana, and it says to those states, we will pay you to take our energy because we have so much today that we can't use it and it will blow the grid. That right there is the kind of America you can expect under Gavin Newsom. And now that I think about it that way, it's probably not all that different than the America we have today under Joe Biden. Like, let's tap the oil reserves and send the gasoline overseas instead of letting Americans use it, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But, that's the kind of America you can expect. That amount of time goes by, and there were Republican administration there too, and the grid doesn't get any better, so that on certain days we're actually paying states to take our energy.
Yeah, the cost comes out to about $1 billion a year. So paying about $1 billion a year, but that money's got to get paid back somehow. So and that is why, that's one of the reasons why we have higher energy rates than in other places around the country. Because we're paying other states about $1 billion to take that
to take our energy. Does that? I mean, in any world, does that make any sense whatsoever? You have a commodity that people need, and you don't have the ability to hold or keep. I feel like I'm in a Seinfeld episode here. You make the reservation, but you hold the reservation. I mean, you've got the energy, but you hold the energy, but you can't hold enough of it. So you go to someone and say, I'm going to pay you to take my energy. Arizona pays to take the energy, and what does Arizona do? Well, they cut their energy bills to their companies so that they don't have to pay as much. And what does that mean? Well, people in California, some of them anyway, aren't stupid, and they look and they say, well, I can move my company to Arizona and pay a whole lot less in a utility, and without doing anything more for my company, save myself a whole ton of money, which I can then reinvest in my company to do other things. That's the America that this guy wants to run. And, like I said, it may be the America we have now, and, based on some of the people that might run as well, on the Democrat side, he may be the best they have.
Well, and what happens with that, and when you put all this into perspective, is those are the vulnerabilities that Gavin Newsom has, especially as he puts forth these type of ads. Now, within the Democratic Party, when you looked at social media, when you looked at the talking heads, that have been over the last couple of days, they were happy. They were thrilled with the message that Gavin Newsom gave out in his video ad, and so it was looking to increase his name ID because a lot of folks don't know who the governor is of the neighboring state or other states, but what he did with this particular ad is, at least within the Democratic circles, is he increased his name ID. He showed himself to be the fighter for abortion rights and a fighter for Democrats. The other thing, too, is it gave a real clear signal to saying that Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, too weak of individuals to be able to be the leaders within the Democratic Party to fight Republicans. And so what he has done is, by putting out this ad, he's saying, I will be your fighter. I will be the guy who's at the forefront fighting this. And so to that end, I think he accomplished his mission. He's got a tremendous amount of vulnerabilities here because of what's happening in the state. But I think just to try to elevate himself, I mean, he did what he was supposed to do with this particular ad.
I completely agree with you. It was, and not only the ad. I mean, let's make people know that the other thing he does is he goes on Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media platform, all the time, and is posting stuff. I mean, it's a very smart strategy. I'm not criticizing that at all. It's a very smart strategy. It is a very clear signal that if Joe Biden does not run, which I don't think anybody expects that he will, he's not going to stand and watch Kamala Harris trying to send. He's not going to, they're both from the same area and what have you, but there's no, I wouldn't say love lost, but there's ambition there that they both have, and there'll be other Democrats around the country that will do the same thing. But he's staking his claim out, and he's doing exactly what you said, which is he's giving Democrats a rallying cry amidst what is a very gloomy time for them on a national level. They see a red wave coming, and it's coming not because of anything other than the fact that it costs more to do everything. There's less available, and the policies that they wanted, they implemented, and this is the result. And so there's a pretty depressed mood in the Democrat Party right now on a national level. And Gavin Newsom comes in as a fighter and, energizes those people and introduces himself to an audience that he probably will start courting, as early as January of 2023.
Right. Yeah, the only person I think who could have rivaled him, which he did for a while, was Cuomo.
Right.
But Cuomo's out. I mean,
right.
I don't see another Democrat out there nationally who has a charisma, but also has the ability to just go out there. I mean, he's got a tremendous amount of subs here in California. Gavin does, just to go out there and put up these type of ads.
Right.
It also is signaling. I mean, direct signal over to Kamala. Kamala is, if she does decide to run, this is a clear message that he does not believe that she will even make it out of a primary, and because he's going out there full hog.
He's right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's right. I remember this woman is there because she's a black woman. I mean, that's why she's vice president. Joe Biden made a pledge to to Congressman Jim Clyburn down in South Carolina, said he'd pick a black woman to be vice president, and he did. She ran for president. She had one big moment on stage in a debate in Iowa where she basically called Joe Biden a racist, an old racist at that, and then she crashed and burned. And I think there's nothing that indicates in the past 2 years or whatever long it's been, it seems like 80 years, that they've been in office, that she has shown that she's ready for the national spotlight, either as vice president or as a candidate. So he's absolutely right to not, he's absolutely right to not sit and wait and to not be deferential or anything like that. I think his message, I don't think he understands, and a lot of people in California I don't think understand how other people look at California. I think that's one of the issues here, is that I don't think he quite understands that most people, even on the East Coast, don't look at California as a place of competency or the way government should be. Californians certainly do that. They're watching. Look, while he's in Montana doing ads in Florida, while he's running for governor of California, and he's still way ahead, and nobody calls him on it. Man, that's a great life. Think about that. He's up. He's probably up shooting guns in Montana somewhere and running commercials in Florida while he's running for re-election in California. Yeah. That's a great life, man. Where do I sign up for that?
Well, and it goes into, kind of transition. It goes into the whole Biden administration and what's happened over the last couple of years. I mean, I venture to guess that had the election happened now between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, knowing what we know now, I mean, Trump would have won in a landslide, because this thing has been disastrous from the get-go. And I know we've kind of hit this over and over again, that here you have an individual who's been in government for such a long time, an experienced individual. Here you have a vice president that is supposed to go out there and provide cover for the president, but in the country, she just goes out there and makes things worse.
Right. You just brought up something that's kind of interesting that I hadn't thought of, and I don't know why this is, and I'm going to look it up, but I haven't seen anybody doing a poll, a national poll, that said, now that you've got the January 6th thing that's going on and everything else, and you've got the past year and a half or 2 years of the Biden administration, I haven't seen any pollsters do a national survey that says if the election were held today and the candidates for president were Joe Biden, Democrat, Donald Trump, Republican, who would you vote for? That'd be a great question. I'm surprised I haven't seen that. And you're right. It would be interesting to see because you do come off the January 6th thing, and that brought to light a few things that people weren't aware of, and you've got the problem with all of that stuff that they're hoping and hanging their hat on is that happens on that day. It's like the abortion, Roe Wade. I mean, there was a great outcry right there and then there were protests, and people were, some violent protests because of the decision, and attacks on the Supreme Court justices themselves. Which really I kind of looked at and said, wow, I thought they were the tolerant ones. I thought, my people were the ones that were insensitive and intolerant, and they don't like a ruling by the Supreme Court, and they start protesting, rioting, and everything, and going to judges' houses. So much for the tolerance. But all of that happens on a day or a week. But every single day, you are reinforced with the fact that we are worse off today than we were even during the pandemic. That the price of things is so high, that the cost of goods is so high, that the ability to get what you need is so low, that the change in this country is so dramatic. That is one of the things that's reinforced every single day, and that's the challenge that the Democrats have to overcome. So you're right. I mean, I don't think that. And every time Joe opens his mouth, it's cringeworthy, and in some respects, it's kind of sad because you want your president to look like a leader and sound like a leader, and sometimes it just doesn't happen with him and with her. I mean, as stupid as it was. She goes down to an Essence Fest. Everything's going on, and she goes down to an Essence Festival in Louisiana and sits in front of a huge banner on a stage having a conversation with the word Louisiana spelt wrong behind her. Now, why nobody caught that? Beyond me. But, those are the kinds of things that just reinforce perceptions that people have. So, getting back to the point, I think Gavin Smart could be doing what he's doing. I really do.
Well, in this latest episode now that it's started making a little rounds, just kind of the press is, we now find out that the United States has a strategic petroleum reserve in case of an emergency or in case something happens within the world itself. And Joe Biden promised that he would, in order to help lower gasoline prices, that he would tap into that reserve and provide millions of barrels of oil to the consumers in the United States in order to try to ease off some of the gas prices. And just to kind of correct a little bit earlier, California's paying now $2 more per gallon of gasoline.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're at $1.40, $1.50, but now it's about $2.
Oh, great.
And the price of gasoline just
I keep a bottle of Tums with me at all times. The official food of California.
And gasoline prices went up, because it just increased the gas tax on July 1st by $500 million. And so all that, is added up to the gasoline prices where we pay an average of $2 more per gallon of gasoline. But so this reserve that we've got in the United States, he was supposed to release it over to lower prices across the United States, and Reuters did a great job. They started looking at some of the documents of what was happening with this petroleum reserve, and lo and behold, about 5 million barrels of oil were going now over to Europe and Asia, making its way from over to India also. And so you've got China getting our oil reserves, you've got India getting our oil reserves, you've got Europe getting our oil reserves to help lower their gasoline prices out there. And so, here in California, we're still stuck paying over $2 a gallon of gas, over $6 a gallon of gasoline. Across the United States, people on average are paying about $4.50, somewhere around there, $4.20 per gallon of gasoline. And so things continue to suck around here. But, lo and behold, someone else is getting our oil.
The funny part is they get our oil and then they turn around and sell it back to us for a profit. I mean, they're not stupid. And the part of that is just completely dishonest is that, he has this big announcement. I'm going to tap into the strategic oil reserves so that we can lower the, have more gasoline available so we don't have to import more gasoline. And it will bring the price of gasoline down here in the United States. And, of course, we know that since he took office, slowing down the ability to get oil, drill for oil in America has been curtailed. We see what the policy of that is. And now we find out that it actually was a scam. I don't know any other word to use for it.
Right.
When you sit and tell the American people, I'm going to tap into the strategic oil reserve and use the gasoline to, flood the market so that the price will come down, and instead you send it to India, you send it to China, which is where it went, you send it to the Netherlands. I could see sending it to the Netherlands in about 4 months when it's winter because they're freezing their butts off, but not now. It's beautiful there now. You sent it to, a place, I think it was Trieste in Italy, which then puts it in a pipeline and sends it to the rest of Europe. There's an America First movement in this country. And it's not about, ultra-nationalism. It's about putting American people first. And here's a perfect example of not doing that, but more importantly, lying to people. I mean, you just basically, ran a shell game. You went in, got the oil reserve, but instead of giving it to the American people so they could pay less in gas, which, by the way, I don't think would have happened here in California. They probably would have increased the price. But, instead of reducing the price of gas in America like you said it was going to do, it reduces the price of gas in China or, reduces the price of gas in the Netherlands or wherever. And that's just basically dishonest. And it really is. What's interesting, though, is it hasn't become a major story in the major news media outlets, which I don't know why, because it really is. I don't think people understand how badly people are being hurt by the price of fuel.
Well, we saw it in Reuters, and so I started also seeing it on social media start picking up this morning. I know it's kind of one of those news that you put out right in the 4th of July weekend when no one kind of pays attention. You've got a lot of reporters on vacation. You've got a lot of legislatures that are on vacation along with city government, and so this is kind of the time where you throw out that type of news. And so,
yeah. Well, and give Reuters credit. I mean, what they did is they went through shipping manifests.
Yeah,
that's how they were able to track, the hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil that went to Trieste, Italy, that then got put into a pipeline that went into Europe, or the barrels, forget how many hundreds of thousands of barrels that went to China. I mean, and by the way, speaking of China, they're about to, the Biden administration is about to take off some of the restrictions on trade stuff that was done by the Trump administration related to China. We're kowtowing to China. That's what it aggravates Americans, is that, we have the resources, we have the capability, we have the technology, we have all of that, and we've become, and ironically, I hate having a good memory. We had the President of the United States back in March, I think it was, spending most of his State of the Union speech about, buying, building, and selling American. And, what do? We go out and give it to the rest of the world, or, we go out and treat America as second class. And I think people are tired of that. I think they expect better. And that's why I think November is not going to be a very good month for them.
Right, and I think it comes, and the biggest problem is it comes in the heels of Joe Biden and his administration this past week calling on the oil companies to reduce, the price of gasoline. So here on one end, you're saying, gasoline prices are high because of, you guys need to reduce the price, but yet you're shipping out millions of barrels of oil to other foreign countries. And the other thing too is there's a lack of honesty, or just being dishonest with people, where it's like, okay, he comes into office, and the very first thing is gets rid of the Keystone Pipeline. And it's not to say that it would have already been built by now, or that we would have oil flowing through it, but it sends a signal, and it sends a signal throughout the business community saying, okay, am I going to have the ability to reinvest or invest and explore or bring in more oil production here in the United States, given that this administration has already signaled that, we are going to cut you down. We're not going to increase the permits. We're not going to give you the permits, first of all, let alone increase them. And when the permits are up, we're going to take them away from you. And so why would a business or entities want to invest in an industry or put their money behind something, knowing that the government's just going to cut them down and hit them with regulations, try to see if they can hit them with penalties? That signaling is what prevents other people from getting into it. And so at the end of the day, we're all paying for it. So you've got some situation that happens around the world. Same thing happening in California. You've got Ecuador this past month that had some really bad strife, where the country shut down. There were protests because of high food prices, energy prices, and gas prices. And so California receives about 21% of its oil from Ecuador. So when Ecuador kind of is having this civil strife, then it impacts back our oil imports that we get from there. And so, it's all connected, and I think it's the hardest thing I tried to explain it to a couple folks a couple of weeks ago, and because they were complaining about food prices, like why food prices? Well, it's because oil prices are high. But what does the oil have anything to do with the food? I said, well, you need diesel to put in the trucks, right, to take that product from whether it's the docks or the warehouses and get them over into the market. And so if you're paying diesel, which is like $7.41 here in California per gallon, you got to pay those diesel prices. Someone's got to pay for that gas.
Right. And plus which, you think of all of the energy that's necessary to manufacture and produce those products. The machinery, the equipment, and all of that kind of stuff. And it all has that ripple effect. And you're right. The Keystone Pipeline was not built. It was planned to be built in, I think, 5 years or something like that. But by saying, and you summed it up really well, by putting a stop to that on day one, he made a policy decision that impacted a business community that said, why would I invest time, research, and money into better, more efficient drilling in the United States when I know that there is a hostile federal government against what we're trying to do? And none of it makes sense because, we'll circle back around to what we were talking about electricity a little while ago. 2035, I think, is when they want all gas-powered cars to be off the roads in California. Well, unless we're going to put up the biggest solar panel that God's ever seen in California, how are we going to... We're talking about blackouts or brownouts here in California, and, let's add, I don't know how many millions of cars that'll be electric to that equation. So not only won't you be able to have power at your house, at least if the power goes out, you can go in your car and turn your air conditioner around. You won't be able to start your car because it's electric and there's no power. None of it makes sense. And I think what happens is, to bring it full circle, these ads that he's doing, at some point in time, someone's going to put some ads together that is the reality of what California is, which is a beautiful state with God-given abundant resources that the government has completely fucked up.
No, we should do the ad, Mike. We should do the ad.
All right, we should
put something together on it.
I mean, and that's the reality of California, and it's not, part of it is because of the people. I'm not giving the people a break on this because they elect. This is a republic. We elect people to do the job, so we hold responsibility there. But it's not a lack of money. It's not a lack of technology. It's not a lack of resources. It's not a lack of intelligence. It's not a lack of God-given gifts. It's a lack of leadership, like you said, to figure out how to do this and make sure that it all works. And God help this country if he ever becomes president. But I would say that he's got a real good shot of winning the nomination, which may say a lot about the Democrat Party.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's all of this is interconnected, and that's why you don't have these supplies of stuff in the market and things like that, because it's called. And that's why you go to or you go to a restaurant. I took my wife out to dinner last night. All of a sudden, the place that we always go to, the salad that she usually gets is now $5 more.
Yeah.
I can't think or imagine that restaurant is making a $5 additional profit that we just paid. It's going to the rise in salaries for their employees. It's going to the workers' compensation they had to pay. It's going to their producers that supply their food and all of that kind of stuff. They're not making any more money in this deal, but they have to charge me more money because of all of these other things. And that's what I think. That's why I think there's a real dark cloud coming in November for the Democrats, because this is their policy. This is what they wanted to do. They've been able to achieve it. Now you leave it up to the voters to decide.
Well, talk in our discussion of leaving it to the voters to decide. Back in your home state, Mike, of Rhode Island, you've got a state senator by the name of Tiara Mack, who just released a ad. Well, I'll say an ad. It's some sort of advertisement on Twitter, which we'll make sure we put the link below.
With a warning that do not eat before you watch this video. But go on.
Well, she's in a bathing suit, a pretty revealing bathing suit, and she's running for Secretary of State. And in this ad, she is asking for people to vote for her. And what she decides to do is do a handstand, shake her butt upside down, and then as she ends it, is just remember to vote for me for office. And so,
yep. Well, when you look at it, you'll see there's a whole lot of shaking going on. She's wearing a thong, just so you know. So don't have the kids around. Don't have the dog around either. But I do give her credit for one thing, though. I mean, she's to be politically correct, she's probably a plus size person. She is an elected state senator in Rhode Island, and she is running for a statewide office. And I do give her credit because she is able to somehow balance all of that on her head while she's talking. So she's literally on her head with her legs up and talking, and it's like, how the hell are you able to do that? I'm pretty impressed by that. I mean, but she's getting a lot of press from it, and I guess, if you don't have a lot of money, you do other things that'll get you attention. I said to my wife when I showed it to her, I said, I guess if you name your kid Tiara, there's probably a good chance she's not going to be a wallflower. So I don't think anybody should be surprised that she's doing this. But it certainly is a unique approach, which I hope most people running for office do not take advice from or try and emulate. Because if you do, there's going to be a whole lot of lunches lost. Let's put it that way.
It's the age of TikTok. It's the age of social media. It's the age of I don't know, putting it out there, to lack of a better word. And so will we see more of these things? And you're starting to see more candidates, be a little bit more upfront with doing their own videos, and with the camera itself, you can video yourself wherever you're at. Be more.
Moral of the story is, just because you can do it yourself doesn't necessarily mean you should do it.
Yeah. Well, this would be an interesting race for you to follow over in your home state, because she, like I said, she is running for statewide office,
right?
Running for Secretary of State, and
she'll be in charge of the elections. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Well, that bell right there, Mike, I think sends that we are done with this particular episode. We'll make sure we put the Tiara link over on our description.
Yeah. I got to find out what district. I have a hunch. I know what district she represents, but again, you look at it and it's like it's certainly different. And again, I give her all the props in the world. I mean, man, the way she's not a 98-pound weakling. Let's put it that way. You'll see for yourself, and her ability to do that on her head. It's like, girl, you can certainly get a law passed if you can do that. And she's doing it at the beach, no less.
Yep.
So you go, girl. I mean, who knows? She may be in charge of all of the absentee ballots in Rhode Island. Who knows? Stranger things have happened these days.
That is true. Well, Mike, it's great getting back together with you, and it's been a while, but
I still want to see. This is the moral of that story, by the way. This is what happens when I leave Rhode Island. It goes to hell in a handbasket.
Yes. All right, Mike, take care.
All right. Thanks, Hector. Take care, everybody.